Oh, hold on. Record. Where is the record? Where's the record?
Or does she get permission to record? Does she not need to? Or there's nothing on that?
Oh, there's record.
I need permission though.
Okay, record on this computer. Right?
Are you recording?
Are you going to record?
Well, I was going to when you're
Recording in progress.
Here we go. All right, call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation
Under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Okay. Alrighty, so I would like to call this meeting to order, and I would like to start with a motion to accept the regular minutes from 9/13/2021. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Rebecca? Second is Mark. Any questions, comments, or corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes from the 13th of September, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. At this point, there's going to be a very long agenda tonight. So in an effort to move things along, I'll open it for public comment, but I'm holding to a strict 2-minute rule. Hearing no public comment, we are moving on. Roger, if you would give us an update with DPW.
Right? This month, last month, we're mowing weeds and cleaning ditches, paved, the road cuts for chips, wood chips money. We hauled in some more crusher runs, garbage and recycles, working on our shoulders for the roads that we're going to be paving. We cut some more branches, the crosswalk thing by Sean and Crystals, you couldn't even see, we got that on front of the 6 feet from a long way now. On Lake Road, I was working on the dirt section, we got a big beaver problem in there, so we're in there quite a bit. We fixed some more potholes on the road that we're going to be paving, and we closed down the beach.
What roads are you paving? Just once more for the public.
Oak Mountain Drive, Whispering Pines, and Bricks Avenue.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have to look in my notes there. Okay, this month coming, I've got mowing weed down there. I don't think we're going to be doing much of that. There may be a 1 or 2 more times, but I doubt it. Well, we're always cutting brush when we have free time. Then we're always working on our ditches. Not as much as I'd like to, but we're always doing some. Working on roads with these paved though. Garbage recycles. We already started installing the LED lights, or the LED lights, but I've got it in this month too, because we're not quite done.
So you're finished in the firehouse, and you're finished at the pavilion.
We're finished at the pavilion, we're finished at the village garage. We finished the hand dryers at the firehouse, but we still have to do the LED lights there.
Okay, great.
We hauled in a little bit more crusher on, then we hauled in some item 4, and now we're hauling sand up to the town building for winter, which will then be on next month too, so we have to help right there up there. Shoulder work, we're supposed to help the water department Wednesday on a hydrant and stain gazebo. Now that the summer's over, we should be able to get that if we ever get a day that's not raining.
Okay.
Then the month after that, pretty much the same stuff. Hopefully, we'll already have paved. I've got ready roads for paving, but hopefully we'll get our paving done before that. I'm hoping it's soon. I still have mowing weed, and I'm sure we won't be mowing and weeding in November.
Yeah, I think we should remove that.
The work I put for the tower, I'm assuming that's going to be coming soon. I don't know when.
Yes, that is coming soon. For the fire tower, as I'll say, the deadline for the permit issuing is November 28th. If it comes sooner, then we'll see how we can do it. I think we should at least order the footers.
Like I said, cut and brush, fixing potholes. Cross country bridge, Paul and Josh walked down there Friday, and it's still way up over their boots, so the water, so we have to wait a little bit longer.
Is there anything that we can build in the garage off-site? Take the measurements that are needed and have it all
We
set?
might be able to build it right down there at the burn, well, I still call it the burn pit, the brush pit.
Right.
And drag it out once it gets cold enough. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, I think that
We
would
don't
be
make it too
efficient.
heavy?
Yeah. I think that would be more efficient, or at least can you build it in sections and bring it back than rather to have waiting until the temperatures are really low
Yeah,
for that.
I'll talk to Lee and them and see if that's feasible, because the only thing we'd have to tow it out with is either the town 6-wheeler or one of our snow machines when it gets cold enough. So I mean, it's too heavy, we wouldn't be able to pull it, so that's it. So I'll have to see what Lee thinks about the weight and what we can pull it with.
That'd be good. If we
do that,
can,
start
if we can
moving.
adjust it, that would be great.
Even if we, just put the stringers and like 4 things across it, just to hold it
Correct.
together, drag it out,
And then do the finishing touches. Right.
so that's on our agenda still too. We plan on doing that out there without the water drowning us.
Great. Mark, did you have a comment? Okay, so I had a few comments, you know me. Okay, pavilion bathroom. Has that been repaired? So the
Everything,
toilet paper's been ripped off, the
everything
contents were
has
gone.
been repaired except every once in a while the back of the toilet leaks through. And it's got different guts than most toilets because it says, I don't know where they bought it. So I've got the name of the toilet and I'm trying to find the guts for the back.
Okay,
But it works, it's just every once in a while it drips through a little bit, that's wasting water, but,
so then let's see how much it would cost to replace.
okay.
So, because there's gotta be a fine line between the amount of money that we spend for someone to fix it, the damages that are gonna come from the leaking versus fixing it and having it.
Well, the
having it
leaking
set.
isn't damages, it's just leaking through the pipe, so it's, water's running all the time. It
Right,
doesn't do it all the time, it only does it once in a while, I think it only does it when it's being used heavy. Once it's not being used heavy, it usually fills up and stays, and so when there's a function, it leaks through a little bit.
well, let's do a little cost benefit analysis on that. And congratulations for having the hand dryers, hung, that's terrific. And the progress on the street light, on the LED lights has been great. The decorative lights are the only street lights that are remaining to be
I
LEDs.
think I can find bulbs even cheaper than the ones I was looking at.
Okay.
That will work with the.
And will the ballast
or
work?
whatever they have.
But the ballasts don't need to be replaced then?
I don't think so. I'm still checking into it. JR's got a couple options, and I've got one over there, one bulb over there that I wanted to try first, and then we can replace all of them.
Okay.
I typed on here someplace, but when I sent it, I didn't save that part. We pulled all the children that were play signs.
Terrific. That's what I wanted to know. Great. And are all the signs in the village visible now? I know you just said that you finished the one by,
I think so. I do a road check every morning that they all seem, but I have the guys go out and cut brush on signs. When we run out of, we really don't run out of things to do, but when we can't start a big project at the end of the day, I have them run around and stuff. So I'll check them again in the morning, but I think most of them are really good.
okay, and you owe me the list of signs, sign inventory
I've got that written down.
All right.
Get it all typed in.
this week.
I will try. I know what.
It's been weeks.
Yes, but
this week,
before you
please.
start paving and stuff, I can't send to the office there to do it. So. And the same thing with the tool thing. I haven't been able to.
The
work
tool
on
I'll give you a little more slack on, but the signs have been asked for a long time. So those need to get finished.
All right.
Okay, is there anything else for, the last one is the Marion Avenue culvert,
We did
the Blumens?
we did his lawn,
Okay.
and I
So for those who don't know, because of the storm and replacement of different things, the lawn had to be restored because there were a lot of divots and low spots and things like
We dug a lot
that.
of the lawn up, and I
Right.
thought if there was anything that you wanted to fix after everything got put back together and sturdy.
Right.
that we do that, so we.
Okay, so that part is done, but the other part were the riprap that had been moved out, the stones that had been.
We'll do that probably this week or next week.
Okay, so that needs to go on your list for the next 30 days.
And, which I thought I put that on there too. I obviously, when I typed it up, I didn't hit my save button, because
Okay.
I remember writing that down too.
Okay.
And there was one other thing I wrote down, I tried to remember what it was. Oh, I put in a message to Lenny for, hydro seed. He hasn't called me back, I'll try to call him again tomorrow, make sure that he got the message.
Okay, terrific. Are there any comments or questions for Roger? No? Roger, thank you.
Yep.
Alrighty. I have one more question, sorry. JR, how is that working out between DPW and water?
We never set days when we first did it.
Okay.
So every morning he had to go down and do the water testing and stuff. And it takes about 2 hours.
Mhm.
And I'd say if Ed has nothing for you to do, come back and I've got lots I can have you do. Sometimes Ed would keep him, sometimes he wouldn't, but now we set days, so
Good.
it's so confusing.
Okay,
We have him Monday, Thursday, Friday, and the water department has him Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right.
And then, of course, if there's an emergency and they need him a different day, or we do, we're very flexible.
good.
And so everything seems to be working so far good,
Okay,
hopefully.
and so you're able to get more things done? I mean, I'm very thrilled about the LEDs that you've been able to change
Yes,
out and the hand
both
dryers.
of the new guys are really good. They like to do stuff, we
Great.
keep them busy, and
Keep them busy. Good,
I don't think they like sitting around, so.
Good.
Makes their day go faster.
terrific, terrific. All right, thank you, Roger, I appreciate that.
Have a good night.
All right, good night. All right, moving on to the clerk treasurer report. Crystal.
I think hopefully a couple of quick things. Fall training school, Jeanette and I attended last week. As always, it was very good. It was great to be back in person with the live discussions. There's something totally different about being able to be in person and having all the conversation that, not only like the presentations, but then the conversation that goes along with those covers.
Thanks, yeah.
Those things. Second, after the last water main break, we did have a few complaints, and in talking with the mayor, we were talking about having some sort of alert system, text alert or message alert kind of thing. New York State Alert is an option. Ed said that he has an account through New York State Alert, so he could potentially send out emergency messages if we need to. We only have a small, like, I think he said about 17 people that are signed up for that. So we're trying to think of ways to push people to go. We have a link on our website that brings you right to the New York State website where you would sign up for New York State Alert. And then that way we could, or Ed could send out messages about, water main breaks, or Roger, if you need something sent out for like a road closure or something that happens. So we're hoping that'll be.
I just want to interrupt her. The front lights aren't on, and I just checked the timer, and it says they're on, so they have to obviously be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Terrific. So people can go and go to our website, find out where to sign up for New York
Right.
Alert. I know that I do it for weather and you can be very specific about what kind of alerts you get. You get a text message, which is very handy.
I think you can maybe get emails or.
You can get emails as well. Yes.
So it's not just text messages, you don't have that option. But it is on our homepage. If you scroll down our homepage, there's a link that says New York State Alert, and that brings you right to the New York State website for you to sign up for that. I'm not really really sure what goes into as part of being able to send out alerts. I'll have to get more information from him on that, so, hopefully we can get some more people signed up, and then it'll be easier to communicate, other than just our posting on our website and on the phone recording in
Right.
town, so.
Which we would still do.
We would still, yes, we would still post.
But this
all of
would be
those
timely.
places. This would just be in addition to
Great.
that, so that we had, another option of communicating those emergencies.
Perfect. Good. Any questions or comments for Crystal?
Lastly, I have the.
Oh, sorry.
I have a resolution.
Oh, yes.
This resolution is just to appropriate that fund balance, for the replacement of the water pump. If everyone remembers, back in May, May 24th, actually, the board authorized spending up to $25,000, in water fund balance, to replace pump 2, right?
Two,
of the well
yes.
building.
And I have it posted for folks on Zoom.
Yep. The pump has been replaced, and is installed, and as far as I know, I believe it's working fine. I haven't heard otherwise.
Correct.
We had the amounts that, the invoice amounts were $13,985 from W2 operators for services, parts, and pump installation, and $4,270 from Aqualogics for mechanical and electrical services, totaling $18,255. Well under what we thought we would have to spend for that. So I just need it approved to move that $18,255 from appropriated fund balance to the budget code F8320.4, where it'll be paid out of.
Okay. I would like a motion to approve resolution to appropriate fund balance for the replacement of the water pump to move $18,255 from appropriated fund balance and move it to budget line item F8320.4 to be increased by $18,255. I see that hand, Mr. Rumsey, for a motion. Second?
Second.
The other trustee Rumsey. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. And then we have, I'm looking for a motion to approve the current abstract number 8.
So moved.
Okay, Mark, second?
Second.
Second, Rebecca. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of paying the bill, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. And now we're looking at financial report 4. Financial report number 4. May I have a motion to approve that financial report?
Mark.
Second.
Okay, just a correction, it's financial report number 3. I was correct.
You're right.
All right. So, so it was Mark and Cindy, to, do those motions. Any questions or comments on the financial report? Yes. Okay. All in favor of, approving the financial report as presented by the clerk treasurer, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Financial report is approved. Thank you for that. Old business, we'll move quickly. Okay, thank you, Crystal. So COVID-19 update, nothing really to report. We did have that surge in cases. It seems to have settled down somewhat. I've not heard from public health in the past week or so, although I was out of town. Good news on the FEMA emergency Halloween storm update. We did receive the New York State contribution of $2,375.45 for the Tunney Park project. So that has now been paid for. FEMA COVID update, stay tuned. Verizon small cells, I believe they went live this weekend. So for those of you who have 5G, would have seen 5G at the pavilion and the ambulance. I do know that I had all cars present and accounted for, so that's great. They were hooking up both in the village, in the town, at Town Hall, and down at the county, as well as on top of Oak Mountain. So that should help a lot. Good news for the National Grid LED streetlights. A rebate has been received in the amount of $5,730. And in follow-up with that, with NYPA, we are in discussions with them. A dispute letter was sent, and a final position has not been provided at this point. Fire tower, the McComas Fire Tower. There was a comment period by the APA for the fire tower that ended on September 23rd. No comments were received. They anticipate the project will be approved at the staff level and not be required to be presented to the agency board. The agency's deadline for issuing the permit, which could be sooner, but the deadline is November 28th, which is 90 days from the date of the complete application. So we're hoping for something sooner so that we can get some of the footers in the ground and be able to have that all set in the spring and hopefully dedicate it during 4th of July. And the American Rescue Plan Act funding, we are still in the process of finalizing some RFPs, and the marijuana regulation and taxation, we're still timing that so that we would have a resolution in December. So Cindy is spearheading that. Any other old business? No, okay. I was thinking there was something and it's fine. Okay, at this point, I would like to introduce Nancy Bernstein. She is the Energy Circuit Rider from ANCA. I've asked her to come and present to us today. She's going to highlight a few things that include the Clean Energy Community Program, and she can explain it much better than I. The community solar programs that are options for the village to consider, the unified solar permit that kind of streamlines the opportunity for folks in the village who wish to install solar panels, and then potential projects for designation and action grants for clean energy. So, one participant.
Now, if I want to share a screen,
Yep.
tell me.
Yep, I am trying to
Excellent.
do that. Who can start when someone else is? Okay.
I think you have to make me co-host, maybe?
I think you should be able to do it.
Okay. Okay, let's see. How's that? You're saying that?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, thank you everybody for inviting me, particularly Jeanette for inviting me, and I very much appreciate being able to give this presentation virtually. It is a 2-hour drive for me, so besides the COVID part of it, it's nice to not have spent so much time on the road. So I am one of the Clean Energy Communities coordinators in New York State, and I do cover Hamilton County. I gave a presentation just like this to the Hamilton County Board in August, and Jeanette was present, and she asked that I give the same presentation to you folks. So the Clean Energy Communities Program is a program of a NYSERDA, the New York State Energy and Research Development Authority, and ANCA, the Adirondack North Country Association, we supply the Clean Energy Communities coordinators for the entire North Country. So we've had some experience with this. We started in about 2016 with the first round of Clean Energy Communities, and we're already on to the second round, which I'll tell you about, the leadership round. So some of you probably already saw this presentation on paper, because I did send it to Jeanette, and I think it maybe was given to you beforehand. But the Clean Energy Communities Program really is about getting money in your hands to do clean energy projects. All the grants that are offered through the program are no cost share, which is a really helpful one. And they're specifically to encourage communities to to implement energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. And one thing that it offers, besides the grants, is free coordinator support. And that's me, being able to tell you about the program, but also me being able to help you kind of navigate the various projects and the program itself. And then the last thing is recognition for your community's leadership in clean energy. So the benefits of being a clean energy community are pretty clear. I mean, you could lower your utility bills. You show your leadership in clean energy, and as far as looking at the picture of the electric vehicles, lower emissions, and it spurs green jobs in the North Country for with these clean energy communities projects dollars. So a lot of benefits there. As far as what the coordinator does, what I can offer, I mentioned that I can offer free technical support. I have lots of resources and toolkits to help, with each action. I met with Jeanette back in August, and we spoke about which actions might be right for the Village of Speculator. Of course, I can attend board meetings, assist communities to complete the actions. And then there are other funding and financing opportunities available besides this program. There's other programs through the utilities, through from other state programs, and then there's even local or even federal opportunities. So we try to keep tabs on all those so that we can kind of layer opportunities together when possible, and try to make these projects happen. As far as the leadership round, that's the new round of CEC, we like to call it, or Clean Energy Communities, that when the program was refunded in January, they're calling it the leadership round. And it's very similar to the first round, except it's a little bit different how there's different types of grants available and different ways to kind of unlock these grants. But the basic thing is, as you complete these high impact actions that are identified by NYSERDA, you kind of build up points, and the more points you get, the more grants you get. And everything is first come, first serve, as far as the different types of grants. So what are the high impact actions? Any one of the actions by themselves, is a good thing to do. Each one of them has the potential to save the municipality money, or save your residents money, or streamline, like the unified solar permit, streamline permitting for contractors so that it's a lower cost to the consumer to actually install solar in that case. But each one by itself is a worthwhile thing to consider. They all will give you points, and they all work you towards the grant funding. And the most important thing about these high impact actions, I think, for the village, is that you only need to complete 4 of them to earn the Clean Energy Communities designation and a designation grant, which for the size of your community is $5,000. And that money can be used for any other project. So we have lots of...
I'm sorry, Nancy. That would be any other project within the clean energy. Yes. That I should have been more specific. It has to be NYSERDA. They're pretty free about giving out the $5,000 as long as you identify a project that either is working on energy efficiency, or is a renewable energy, or something that is going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's their real target. They're pretty loose in a project otherwise. You could use it for to make improvements on one of your municipal buildings. You could give it out as buy a lot of LED light bulbs and give them to your residents, to put in their homes, or you could put it towards a clean energy fund. So there's lots of different things, but I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I should talk a little bit more about what these different actions are. And I'll go through these one at a time, kind of briefly, so we don't take up too much of your time. But you can see that the different actions have different points. And that's because NYSERDA identifies different actions have more impact, in particular in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So the bigger point actions are, maybe a little bit harder to accomplish, but they have the most impact. So let's see, the unified solar permit we mentioned, and I did want to speak a little bit about this one, because
Jeanette and I had identified this as something that the village might consider. So the Unified Solar Permit is a streamlined permit that NYSERDA is asking municipalities in the state to adopt. It's really just the permit application. So when a contractor comes to the village of Speculator to put in an installation to, one of your homeowners or small business owner, then they will see the same permit application that they'd see in every other community in the state that's adopted it. It's more, it's familiar. They know how to fill it out real quickly. They don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel every time. So it's just the permit application. It's the action that the village would take would be adopting the permit and then posting on your website so that contractors know that if they have a project in your community, that's what they'll use. So it's pretty simple and no cost. The energy code enforcement training is another action. So this is NYSERDA has identified that the energy code is sometimes the last code that's enforced. When a building is a new building is being built or significant renovations, and so they're putting a lot of effort into training code officers to enforce the energy code. And it's a free training, and besides receiving the kind of credit for another action, the code officers also receive continuing education credit, so that's valuable as well. And we have a couple trainings. Actually, there's a lot of trainings happening around the state this month, or I should say next month, October, almost into October. We have two in the North Country. One is in Lewis County, and the other one is in Essex County. There's also one down in the town of Marcy, which I'm not sure which is closest for your code officer, but I'll make sure that Jeanette has all the locations and links. But it is free. So PACE financing, property assessed clean energy. This is a type of financing that for clean energy projects that is enabled through the county. So it's not something that the village could take as an action, but it's something to be aware of if it's a certain type of financing specific for clean energy. The clean energy upgrades, high impact action. That's when the municipality takes any kind of improvements to your buildings or your infrastructure that make reductions to greenhouse gas emissions of at least 10%. So it can be a combination of projects that you've done that including LED light bulbs, into your inside the building, not the street lights, or any kind of weatherizing or replacing your furnace or boiler with a more efficient one. But we'd have to show that that there were 10% savings in greenhouse gas emissions. Clean heating and cooling demo. This is where the village would install an air source heat pump or a ground source heat pump in one of your buildings as a demonstration, and then just let your constituents know that's what you've done. Make it a demonstration so that they are aware of what you've done. So you get the benefits of increased savings on your energy bills, as well as potentially more comfortable heating and cooling, and then you get to show your commitment towards clean energy.
So Nancy, just an aside for heat pumps and things like that, I was under the impression you couldn't do that in the North Country, given our extreme weather.
Well, there are two types of heat pumps. There's ground source heat pumps, which people also call geothermal, and that's very, very doable in cold climates because you're using the heat from the ground, which may not seem really warm, but it's warmer than the outside air temperature in the winter, and it's cooler than the outside air temperature in the summer. And so that's ground source heat pumps. Then there are air source heat pumps, and in the South, people typically call these chillers because they were typically used for air conditioning. But they've been improved over the years, and they now have cold climate air source heat pumps that are much better at dealing with cold temperatures. They work, reliably down to like 15 below. And of course, we live where it gets colder than 15 below in some weather. So they work best in conjunction with an existing heating system. So you wouldn't necessarily completely replace your existing, perhaps fossil fuel, boiler or furnace, but you would supplement it. And then you get the advantages of the cooling in the summer as well, since they kind of work in reverse in the different seasons. So you get that benefit. Any other questions about that?
Thank you.
Okay. So then another action is purchasing renewable electricity for your municipal buildings. That actually gets a little complicated. I won't go into details, but it has to do with making sure that you have renewable energy certificate credits, or also known as RECs, for all the electricity that the village consumes in 1 year. So there is a cost with this, but it's not clear at the moment. I can't give it at least how much cost that is. LED streetlights, your community is already on the way. I know you've replaced all your roadway lights, which as far as points go, that earns 700 points with this program. And then I know you're working towards getting all your decorative streetlights, which will give you an additional 200 points. And the nice thing in this program, that's actually considered 2 actions, because you have enough streetlights to and both styles that NYSERDA considers that 2, which will count towards your 2 of your 4 that are necessary for the designation grant. Benchmarking is something else I mentioned to Jeanette as a possibility for the village. Benchmarking is really just keeping track of your energy consumption for your village buildings. And we do this through a website that's an EPA website called Portfolio Manager. And it's just a tracking document of all the bills that you pay for electricity, for oil, for propane, wood pellets, whatever source of fuel you use. We enter that information in monthly or quarterly or some period of time, yearly, and it tracks that use. And it's a way of being transparent to your constituents. How much are you paying for these buildings, and where is their taxpayers' dollars going towards? Benchmarking, the action that you would take is to pass a resolution adopting benchmarking, which would be adopting this tracking process, and then that's when I would come in and help the village set up the benchmarking profiles in Portfolio Manager, and enter all your utility information in there. I would need help from somebody at the village to who has access to all the bills, whether they're already in spreadsheets or whether they have online accounts with National Grid or whatever. But that's something that I would do. But the action that you're taking by passing the resolution does commit the village to doing this on a regular basis. And so I will certainly help get it going and help to provide the knowledge of how to keep it updated. But then it does become the responsibility of the village, and I will train somebody to kind of update it over time. There is a bunch of points that is involved with it. For 100 points for just passing the resolution. If we kind of link the Portfolio Manager account for the village buildings to NYSERDA, so they can kind of confirm that you really have done the benchmarking, or we have really done the benchmarking, then you get another 200 points. And the 1,000 points, that's only if you have commercial buildings within the village that you can that you require to benchmark, and that's only for large municipalities. So that isn't available to you. So that's benchmarking. Clean Fleets involves a number of different things, from installing an electric vehicle charging station within, on municipal property, to purchasing an electric vehicle for your fleet, whether it's a car or in the future a truck. There aren't so many heavy-duty vehicles out there yet, but they're coming. So if installing an EV charging station is something that you think you might be interested in, that's something that, you not only get points and get an action but you'll also, there are a number of other rebate programs through National Grid, through NYSERDA, through the DEC to help make installing one, it's a very low cost because the state's really promoting vehicle electrification. So they're promoting EV charging stations to make that happen. Climate Smart Communities. This is a DEC program that's more focused on climate issues, a lot of planning and involved in it. It's a very similar point-based program as the NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities program. Has a similar name, but it is different. And the nice thing about the two programs is they interweave. So if you get points in one, you can get points in the other. And in fact, once you get designated climate smart communities, then you actually get points in clean energy communities. So two programs. Now community choice aggregation, that is a program that is rewarded with quite a lot of points because it has a lot of impact. Now everybody in the Village of Speculator right now, if you signed up for a new electricity account, you would automatically get National Grid would be your supplier of electricity. That's your default, and the state of New York has chosen National Grid as your default. In much of the North Country actually, and community choice aggregation is when the municipal government is enabled. You pass a local law that enables the village to be able to do this, but the village leaders decide who's going to be the electricity supplier for your residents, and you don't do this just by yourselves. You work with a community choice aggregation administrator who's knowledgeable, and he goes out to bid and looks for good prices. But it's what we call an opt-out model, where once the village, and there's lots of steps to get there, but once you choose your electricity supplier for your residents, then everybody in the village will be signed on to this new electricity supplier unless they choose to opt out. And that's why it has a big impact, because most people in the village are happy to, they trust their local leaders and they're happy to have them make choices for them. And most people they don't want to take the time to research what's the best option for themselves. So that's what a community choice aggregation is. Now, if the village went through this whole process, and when they chose a new default electricity supplier, and it was 100% renewable electricity, that's when NYSERDA will award 1,500 points for this action. It's a lot of points.
Oh, it has to be 100% renewable.
It has to be 100% renewable electricity. Now, as the default, you can and many of these community choice aggregations also offer a secondary choice. Like if you would automatically be as default put into given 100% renewable electricity, but you can choose maybe a cheaper option that is not renewable if you chose opted into that option. Or you can opt out completely and go back to National Grid or to Ambit or whatever electricity supplier you want. You can choose that as well. So happy to talk more about that in the future, but that's the community choice aggregation. Now, community campaigns are something that the village might be interested in doing as well. They have the advantage of they come with their own $5,000 grant, separate from the designation grant for doing 4 actions. You just have to do a community campaign. If it's successful and gets you at least 10 participants, then you're awarded the action grant. And one of the types of community campaigns is for community solar, and that's community solar is a way. Many of you may have already received letters in the mail about signing up for community solar through Nexamp, or there's a bunch of different ones that you may have gotten. And when you subscribe to community solar, you're participating and you're helping to support the building of renewable, in this case, solar projects. Community solar are typically a medium-sized solar project. They're not the really huge, hundreds and hundreds of acres of solar panels. They're typically like 10 acres or maybe 20 acres in size. By subscribing to one, you help the developer receive the benefits from NYSERDA for promoting this size solar project. And typically, people who do subscribe get a 10% reduction to their electricity bill. That's because the incentives are so good from the state to to promote community solar that there's a benefit. So as a municipality, you can subscribe your own buildings to community solar array, and then by holding a community campaign, you would be encouraging your residents through a municipal-led effort to also sign up for community solar. And the minimum of 10 participants, if you get them signed up, and you'd work with a vendor who does who signs up folks for these things, and you get 10 participants, and then you can get an action grant. So that's one way to make a little bit of money for the village. New York Stretch Energy Code. This is something that is an extra code or extra stringent code on top of your current energy code. So it's a little more strict than what you're required to build projects under. It's very similar to what the energy code will be in a couple of years, because every few years energy code gets a little more strict. And NYSERDA sees, municipalities that adopt a stricter energy code having a lot of impact, and so that's why they reward it with 1,200 points, as well as another action grant, which would be another $5,000, only if the village adopted the New York Stretch Code before the end of December of this year. Because in a couple of years, probably around 2023, everybody's going to have to have this code. It'll be mandatory, and so it won't be, kind of taking it a little bit early. So the different grants, I mentioned the action grants. Those are for just the community campaigns and New York Stretch Code. The designation grant, that is when you complete any 4 actions, and then the point-based grants. Those are the action grants, and the designation grant I mentioned, and the point-based grant. Forgot I had all these slides. The point-based grants, there are, for your size community, there's, if you earn 3,000 points, and there's lots of them, because, we're the North Country, we're small communities. It's not an easy task to get to all these points. So I don't anticipate there being a lot of competition, or that you really have to get out there in front of everybody to get even a 3,000 point grant. But you earn $10,000 grant to be used for a clean energy project. Then you can take that $10,000 and spend it on ways to build more points. And when you get to a 4,000 point threshold, then you get another $20,000. That's on top of the 10. And then you can, again, invest that in clean energy and build up to 5,000 points. And that's when you kind of hit the jackpot with a $70,000 grant. So these are ways that these points kind of build upon themselves. A number of communities have already participated in clean energy communities since it was first started. Quite a few in the North Country and building all the time. I have quite a lot of communities that are working towards the designation. So that's it in a nutshell of the program, and happy to answer any specific questions. I know that Jeanette, had talked about getting some proposals for a solar, maybe rooftop solar for one of your buildings in the village, and that would be, something you could spend your $5,000 designation grant on, and it would also, if you did, it would reduce your, that would be considered a clean energy upgrades and would reduce your greenhouse gas emissions enough to get points for yet another action. So I think what else did we have on there? Did I hit everything?
I think you did.
Okay.
The clean energy community program, the solar programs, the solar permits, and the potential projects for designation and action grants. So Yeah, so we've done the LEDs, we've done the building upgrades for the lights already in the pavilions in the buildings. We're finding it, or I'm finding it very difficult. I sent out a request for proposal to about 6 or 7 places, have only heard back from one. And I met someone down at NICOM who gave a presentation on clean energy who would be able to provide us with a proposal. So we might be able to get 2 if we really pushed.
Yeah, so as far as the actions and you know, even if you didn't use your $5,000 for rooftop solar, and I you know, it might take a little while to get proposals, Jeanette, but I'm sure you will get them eventually. It's just people are busy. This is, you know, prime construction time, and you wouldn't be putting it in anytime this fall anyways. So there's time there. You will get some attention eventually, but there are lots of ways you could use the $5,000, or if you even got 2 $5,000 grants, that I'm sure you would find good ways to spend it.
Right.
And keep in mind, you already completed, well, you've completed one action, and Jeanette submitted it to NYSERD, and that was for the roadway streetlights, the Copperhead streetlights. And then soon you should, at some point, you will be finished with the decorative streetlights. So that's 2 actions. If you think your code officer would be willing to attend the training on October, well, in the 2 that are Lewis County near Lowville, that's on October 18th, and the one in the town of Lewis, Essex County, that is on October 19th. So and again, then there's a few that are down near Marcy, and those are the closest. There are other ones around the state. I know you guys are always far from everywhere, so I don't know where the best place to go to, but if you can get your code officer to go, then that's a real easy action, no cost. And then consider the unified solar permit. Again, no cost. It's just adopting this application. And benchmarking, if the village wanted to continue and try to get more actions, I would definitely recommend the benchmarking. Again, it doesn't have any cost to it, just a little bit of staff time to kind of pull together bills. And if we did the benchmarking, that would let us see if you qualified for the clean energy upgrades, which from all your LED work that you've done. We can't really document anything until we do the benchmarking.
Okay.
So you kind of have to do the benchmarking to do the clean energy upgrades. You don't have to. I guess you don't have to. You don't have to pass a resolution adopting benchmark. We could just benchmark the buildings, but that's how we would tell if you've made any reductions.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have questions. Nancy?
Yes.
Thank you for this excellent presentation. A couple items. Can the village get credit for asking other corporations and energy users in the area to teamwork with us? Thinking possibly like Charlie Johnson has a big surface area on their roofs. Camp of the Woods, which has a number of huge buildings. Can we partner with them? And if we do we get credit? And do they get credit? And are they able to get, all this would be under this unified solar permit. I think that seems to be like a slam dunk type of deal. That should be step number 1. Is that right?
Well, that would be a very easy thing for the village to do, and it has no. There's really nothing that. There's not a lot of reason why you wouldn't want to do it. I suppose if your code officer was vehemently opposed to use, they like their own building permit application and gave you a hard time about it, maybe you would think about not adopting it. But otherwise, it's kind of, many communities have adopted it, and there's not much reason not to. As far as putting solar or encouraging, some of your other, commercial entities in the village to adopt solar themselves, the clean energy communities is really focused on the municipal actions. So even though we talked about the community choice aggregation, that does have impact on your constituents in the village, but there's not. let's see, even the community campaigns, you know, if you encourage some of your commercial entities to subscribe to community solar, that could be part of a community campaign. But NYSERDA doesn't have any community campaigns for rooftop solar anymore, mostly because, you know, the benefits of installing solar on your building, you know, are there by themselves, right? I mean, there's the investment will pay itself back in just, you know, a handful of years. So it's the NYSERDA backs off on their incentives when the market takes care of itself. So I would say there's not really, I can't really answer your question that well, but there's not really incentives for doing that. Not to say that those commercial entities shouldn't consider it though, but the village wouldn't benefit from it.
And the issue of windmills up on some of our hills.
Well, you know, again, if it was on village property, that's something that we could consider, you know, that would, you know, in the Clean Energy Communities program. As far as installing, you know, on commercial property or other private property in the area, that's a big one. You have to deal with the Adirondack Park Agency and towers. Or, you know, the wind turbines that are being built, like if you've seen them in Tug Hill region, or if you ever come up to the Champlain Valley or St. Lawrence Valley, there's lots of them, and they're huge. I mean, they're like 400 to 600 feet tall. They're much bigger than what they started out to be. And none has been permitted in the Adirondacks Park, and I doubt they ever will. We don't even have the best place for it. They're building them where there's lots of wind, and the top of the mountain might have a lot of wind, but that's the last place that you're going to see them in the Adirondack Park. They're more suited for, you know, Tug Hill, up on the St. Lawrence Valley, you know, other places where they have real consistent wind. But solar is coming to the Adirondacks in lots of ways. So I think we'll be seeing a lot more of solar because it's not so intrusive visually.
Nancy, one question that you don't have to answer here, but I would like in the future, is the difference or the benefit that we would see with community solar, where we can assign our buildings and get 10 participants or more to sign up for, versus the one where it's the opt-out program.
Right, the community choice aggregation versus the community solar. Well, one is an opt-in and one is an opt-out. So the community solar campaign is an opt-in because you're asking people to individually sign up to opt in. And sometimes that's hard to do because people are like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, but then they never do it. Right. You know, we all do that, right? We all think it's a good idea, and then when we get home, we forgot all about it. That's why NYSERDA is really promoting the community choice aggregation, where it's an opt-in, because then everybody gets put in and they have to opt out. And so it's more likely you're going to see, you know, most of your residents joining it. So there is a community choice aggregation for electricity supply, and then there's also one for community solar. So both of them are again an opt-out, because everybody gets brought in, and then they can choose to opt out only if they, you know, take action.
And those negotiations in the community choice with the electricity provider, are those terms renegotiated on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, the contracts are usually like 18 months, sometimes 2 years. There's several communities that are working on community choice aggregation in the North Country. There's one that already actually has one, although they don't have renewable electricity as their default supply, so they don't get, you know, all those points. But they chose a community choice aggregation for other reasons, and they did it before NYSERDA was really talking about it. They did it because they wanted to kind of protect their constituents who were a lot of folks in that town, the town of Chazy, had been, there's some predatory electricity suppliers out there, and a number of the folks in town had been kind of burned by several of them. And so the town decided to take leadership and you know, work with a supplier and make sure that it wasn't a predatory one, to keep tabs on the cost. And what one of the benefits is that it's a instead of a variable rate, which National Grid has, you know, the rates change monthly, or actually daily, but you're billed, you know, for the month, to a fixed rate. So, and they're set for that period of time, which is typically 18 months or 2 years.
Yeah. So for my point of view, I think that those are two things that would be worth exploring further. And I understand that on the National Grid bill, they would actually clearly identify how much money would be saved through the program, whether it be through solar or through, you know, another electric power supplier.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure they would say how much you're saving, but it's clear on the bill what you're paying for. It will say who your supplier is, if it's different than National Grid. It'll tell you if you're getting credits from a community solar project. It'll, you know, it's all there, and you know, just you have to know how to read it. You know, a lot of people don't really look at their bills that carefully. I'd be happy to bring in somebody, or, you know, or recommend somebody for a work session, you know, who can explain community choice aggregation very clearly and has a great presentation. It's kind of our expert that we can turn to when someone's interested.
Yeah.
And we have a library community interest forum, and that would be
A good topic.
great topic.
So that the community could understand as well as the board.
Sure. That'd be fine. You know, I think he'd be available he may even be able to come up in person, you know, if it's COVID safe, and or doing a virtual presentation as well. I mean, it would be something that I would encourage the village board members to attend as well, because you have to take the action. I mean, you know, you don't want to do it if your community doesn't want you to do it, but it's an action, because the first step is for village leaders to pass like enabling legislation, a law enabling community choice aggregation. That's just the first step, and that doesn't even commit anybody to anything. It just gives you the power, and then you can look into what are the costs are. You know, you have to choose an administrator, and they go out to bid, and still there's no cost to the village until you get a bid you like and you go for it. So there's many steps, but the first step is an action by the village itself.
Okay. Cindy, Mark, Rebecca, do you have any comments or questions?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
All right. Okay. Nancy, thank you so much. Really appreciate your knowledge and insight, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. So, all right. So, continuing on. How do I get up here? Okay. So, today I received a resignation letter from our village attorney that I wanted to share with you. And I did send that out. Where is it? This is it. Okay, so I received this letter from our attorney, Katie Smith, today. Dear Mayor Barrett and Board of Trustee members, effective September 30th, I respectfully resign as attorney for the Village of Speculator. As my daughter enters her junior year of high school and prepares to leave for college, I've made some tough decisions to reprioritize my schedule. I'm grateful for the experiences shared with you and your predecessors, and it's been a pleasure serving all these years. I wish you all the best in leading the village into the future. Very truly yours, Katie Smith. So this puts us in a position where we need to explore some options for a municipal lawyer to have on retainer. So I have asked NICOM for a list of potential lawyers, and then I will contact our surrounding towns within Hamilton County to see who they are using as their lawyers, and we'll determine what's the best way for us to go forward. I do know that Young and Summers is used by the town of Lake Pleasant. that they are kept on a retainer for services needed, and then they're contacted on an ad hoc basis. So I would like to publicly thank Katie and her law firm for the many years of service that they've provided to the village, and I know that she's been a pleasure to work with, and we wish her and Chase and Kevin all the best in this this new phase of their family and their commitments. With that said, there is a matter that we do need legal guidance for, and let me see where that is. Resolution. Here. Okay. So there is a matter with the code violation, that is ongoing. It's been going on for about a year. We need an attorney to give us advice on that matter, so that we can file that and get resolution for that. Our village attorney, Katie, was unable to provide that advice due to conflict of interest with her position as a municipal judge. So I did reach out to a number of different lawyers and landed on Young and Summer, and her name is Laura Darling. She's an attorney with Young and Summer who does work for the town of Lake Pleasant. So I did send that agreement letter out to all of you. So I'm looking for a resolution for the retention of external counsel of Young and Summer attorneys at law for a code enforcement violation. So because we have this violation brought by the enforcement officer, we do need a legal review and advice on how to proceed. So that the board is aware, Bob Benkovich and I drew out the violation and have cited all relevant laws, so we need someone to make sure that we've done it correctly. We've contacted Laura Darling, who is willing to provide that legal advice. Their billing is at an hourly rate of partners being $250 an hour, associates $175 an hour, paralegals $95 an hour. They would also bill as one would expect for disbursements that would include filing fees, photocopies, etc., as outlined in their letter of engagement, code enforcement violation, that I believe would be part of the, kept as part of the resolution. So the board finds that the retention of external counsel is necessary for this, let me correct that, for this matter, and that the charges proposed are reasonable. These are the same rates that other attorneys outside counsel have proposed for us in the past. So therefore be it resolved by duly convened Board of Trustees of the Village of Speculator that the mayor of the village is authorized to execute an agreement with the law firm of Young and Summer at the hourly rates for service as specified to provide legal advice regarding a code enforcement violation, and be it further resolved that funds for the payment of such legal fees shall be expended from the village's legal fund, A1420.402. May I have a motion for this resolution?
Moved.
Mark, second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
Is Laura a partner in that group, or is she in that middle section?
She is a partner with that group.
Okay.
Let me just double check.
And that's who would be assigned to that, correct?
Yes, yeah, and actually it doesn't say whether she's a partner or a associate. Right. So I'll double check on that.
How do those fees compare to Katie?
Katie, we gave her a retainer of $5,100 a year, so about $425 a month, and then she would bill us at a rate of $185 an hour. So depending on how it's structured, it could be comparable. So it may be, as with other lawyers, they would have a retainer, and then they would draw down that retainer for the amount of activity or work that we would provide them. So in this particular instance, it shouldn't take too much time to review the document.
Do you pass those legal costs on to the defendant or perpetrator?
It depends. It depends.
The question, I couldn't hear it.
So the question is, those legal fees that we would incur, for example, with this code violation, would that be passed on to the person in violation if they're found guilty?
That's what I was wondering too. Yeah.
And I think that's a matter for the judge. I think that's something that we have put in there, that they would be responsible for that, but we can certainly ask about that responsibility. And in this particular case, it's been going on for over a year, so it's not very nice. Okay. All right, so all in favor of passing this resolution for retaining Young and Summer for this particular violation, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Mark?
Yeah, I said aye.
Okay, aye.
You're muted, Mark.
Okay.
I
Aye.
want me to say aye.
And all opposed say no. So motion carries to enjoin them. Okay, the next matter of business is the sidewalk snow removal machine from Ventrac. So we have the opportunity at no added expense to pay off the sidewalk snow removal equipment and submit it for reimbursement to CHIPS within this cycle. The cost to pay it off by the end of September is $32,020.14. That's comprised of the principal of $31,501.39 and interest of $518.75. If you'll recall, the Ventrac equipment is under state contract number 062117-V as in Victor, P as in Peter, I as in Indiana, added 12% discount price over list price. I'd like a motion to cancel the lease with Real Lease and replace it with the purchase of the Ventrac sidewalk snow removal machine outright under state contract 062117-VPI, contract ID number 172062. May I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, Rebecca, and second by Jim. Are there any questions or comments?
Did we check with Real Lease to make sure there's no, okay, you did, great.
Yes, we checked with Real Lease and there is no charge to switching from lease to outright payment. The only thing we're required to do, as you would expect, is to pay the interest that has accrued since this took place.
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because when I looked at the document, it didn't illustrate what they, a buyout.
Of course. So there's no charge for the buyout. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor of buying the snow machine outright under the state contract, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries, and we'll get that underway. I'd like to touch base on Auctions International for DPW surplus that was done a few months ago. Mark, if you'd like to update us on that.
Yes, we had passed a resolution to get rid of 3 vehicles, not only for DPW, but for water and wastewater. I took about 60 photographs, filled out all the forms, sent them to Auction International. They will go on the bid site tomorrow. And as far as the 2 choices we have, we can accept the bids if we're happy with the price, or we can decline and counter offer if we feel the price is too low. And it's like having a reserve in the back end. And the buyer pays all the fees, the seller pays nothing. So I sent the contract out just so you can look at it, but that's all we have. So hopefully everything goes well and we get some money.
All right, terrific. Thank you so much. I know that was a lot of work, Mark, and
Thank you, Mark.
hopefully we won't be doing that again anytime soon.
No, I give up on that.
You passed the baton. I did want to note just a few quick highlights from the fall training that I took away from. A few good things for us: the state budget changes that were enacted that impact the village directly are CHIPS, the Extreme Winter Recovery in New York. All of these have received more than their previous allocations, and CHIP was actually increased by 23%, which was the first time in 8 years. So the village is the recipient of all of those benefits. So that's good to hear that they've been renewed and expanded. The second is there's an increase in water sewer infrastructure funding. NICOM is actually lobbying that a dedicated portion of the funding go directly to cities and villages with municipal water systems, much like the CHIPS program. Because as you know right now, all of these grants are based on median income, and because so many of our second homeowners are well off and well-to-do, that puts our median income higher than what qualifies for the grants. And in addition to that, the New York State believes that reasonable fees for water and sewer are the equivalent of 1.5% of that median income. So at this point, that is still a large margin from what our base rates are now to what they could be. So that's something to consider, but we'll look for opportunities to fund it in other ways. Then there's legislation awaiting delivery to the new governor for signature. One would be only to require meeting minutes on websites within 2 weeks instead of publishing in the paper, although I did get a comment today that someone enjoyed reading our minutes in the paper. So there are some restrictions around that we meet. It's updated websites routinely, and that it uses a high-speed connection. The other thing is that it would expand, another legislation is to expand jurisdiction for handling uniform code violation cases by amending the law to impose minimum fines for violations of the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. So to put a few more teeth in that code, and that could certainly help our position. Another thing that came up, if you will recall, a while back due to COVID, Chapter 106 of the laws of 2021 prohibits penalties and late fees for water accrued during the state of emergency, only for those customers who enter a deferred payment agreement. Those who do not enter a deferred agreement with the village will be charged their penalties for late fees. And notice to enter into an agreement will continue to be included in billing statements through December 22nd, 2021. So to date, no one in the village has entered into a deferred payment agreement. There were also several discussions and presentations regarding cybersecurity, with New York State OSC providing a guide on ransomware that was very helpful. And reviewing best practices noted in the guidance, it is evident that the Village of Speculator has policies and procedures in place that do reduce our risk of being a victim of ransomware. These include restricted user access with respect to job functions, administrative privileges, antivirus protection installed and being kept up to date, offline and offsite backups of applications to ensure successful recovery from attacks. So I was very read that, and kudos to Crystal for making sure those programs are still in effect. There's always room for improvement, but I think through our website and the recent hacks that were prevented and working with ABS, I think we're in very good shape, knock on wood. So there was also a session addressing the relationship between the village board and the village fire department, over which the village has authority, which is our case. And I'll be reviewing the applicable New York State village laws, general municipal laws, public officers laws with Chief O'Brien and Trustee Cindy Rumsey in the upcoming weeks to ensure that we are compliant with our policies and procedures and the way the oversight is provided to our Speculator Volunteer Fire Department. Okay, there ends the new business. Is there any other new business from any board members? Hearing no new business, I will jump to board roundtable. You don't mind if I go first? There's a volunteer fire department open house on October 2nd. That's this Saturday between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. As an enticement, there is free coffee and snacks available. We had previously discussed having the village board take a tour of the firehouse. With this open house, I'm encouraging that all board members avail themselves of the open house in lieu of a formal tour, which would require a 5-day notice and advertising and that sort of stuff. So it's to our benefit to familiarize ourselves with the fire department, the types of equipment they have, and get to know our volunteer firemen a little bit better, and to introduce yourselves to them as well. The second roundtable item I have is that it was very nice to receive a $500 check from Comp Alliance at NICOM. This was for a loyalty incentive for signing up with Comp Alliance. And as you know, we only signed up with them just a couple months ago. So not only have they saved us money and will save us money over the next couple of years, we have received a check for $500. Those monies will be distributed across the 3 budget lines, since general fund, water, and sewer all contributed to the Comp Alliance payment. And then finally, the DEC goose permit, the taking of geese ended on August 31st. Reporting requirements to DEC were filed. A total of 9 geese were taken. There was a significant improvement in the park and beach with regards to geese excrement this season. Contributing factors may have been that several other DEC goose permits were issued for the lake property. It was suggested that by taking these geese, so it was suggested by the people who were listed on the permit for taking geese that we add a few additional qualified people to the list who would be more readily available should geese be found on the property, and they would be able to respond. This year we had 3 people, and I would like to thank them for a job well done. The taking geese were provided to people who voiced an interest in having them. So 4 geese were delivered to folks who would use them as a food source, and the others were appropriately disposed of according to DEC requirements. So, anybody else? Jim, you have anything? Nothing from Jim? Nothing from Rebecca? It's good to see you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
You're healing well. Cindy, anything?
No.
Nothing? Mark?
All I can say is when they started getting rid of the geese, they disappeared. They came back, they got some more, and they completely disappeared again. So they got the message from Lake Pleasant.
Yeah, I would like to say that the award for best goose getting goes to Rob Huslin, who in the last take took 4 geese with 3 shots.
Wow.
And I heard the 3 shots. That's good. I thought he got.
Yeah, so we got 4 with 3. So he will stay on our list of qualified takers. Wins the prize. Good. So,
Should we have be proactive to apply for future, to do it as soon as they get here?
we can only take geese between April 1st and August 31st. We have to apply for the goose permit prior to that.
And there were 80 geese on the ice before the ice let out. And as soon as they started shooting, basically they completely disappeared.
Wow. Wow. Did you hear that, Jim? So this past year, there were over 80 geese on the ice as that ice was going out. And as soon as they were able to start taking geese in April, they all disappeared. So actually, Mark, to your point, I have to do my math. 5 geese were taken in the first 2 weeks of April. So geese were only taken in April and at the end of August. So
That's correct. And the only geese I saw on the lake were up by Sucker Brook, and there was 6 geese there, and they all nested in Sucker Brook. I didn't see anything down here.
Yep. So, yeah, and there were other properties who took, goose permits as well, Camp in the Woods, the Hawkswell, Lightig's old property, those cabins there had taken, and I think 1 or 2 others. So I think that really helped with our population. And again, it's such a health risk and health hazard for people in the parks and on the beach. So if there are interested qualified marksmen who would like to participate, they should submit their name and information, and we'll see what we can do to have them help us. Okay, so Mark?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, so we'll take that as closing the meeting at 8:26 p.m. All right, have a good night. I apologize for the long meeting, but thank you for getting a lot of work done today.